Welcome back to Couch Talk, everybody. Tonight I had the opportunity to see the newest M. Night Shyamalan film, Trap, starring Josh Hartnett. In this film, Josh Hartnett plays a father to a little girl who he is taking to a concert for essentially this universe's version of Taylor Swift. It is not Taylor Swift, but a pop star that is just as big as her. While there, he realizes that cops and the FBI agents are swarming the place, so he leaves his daughter in the stands to go and ask one of the concession workers what's going on with all the cops. One of the concession workers tells him that there's evidence that the butcher, this serial killer that's going around chopping people up with a butcher's knife, is actually in the audience, and they want to round up all the men at the end of the concert and question them. This is the moment where we learn that Josh Hartnett is in fact the butcher, and he now has to, on one hand, not let his daughter know that something's wrong because he wants this night to be special for her, but on the other hand, he has to learn how to avoid getting caught and making sure he gets out of there alive and not arrested. Now, if what I just said has you triggered, that is in the trailer, so it is fair use for me to say. Don't want you to think I just spoiled the famous M. Night Shyamalan twist for you guys. That is known. We know from the trailer that he is the killer. That being said, this movie turns into a suspense thriller where you're on the edge of your seat wondering if he's going to get caught or not. Overall, I do think that this movie worked. M. Night Shyamalan, he's had a pretty troubled past. I mean, I remember when he first came out with Signs and Unbreakable, a lot of people were saying that he was the next Steven Spielberg, that he was the next big hot director that was going to be one of the best. And then his ego got a little too big, and he started making movies like Lady in the Water, which was awful, or The Following, which was awful, or Avatar, which I never watched the animated show, so when that movie first came out, I was like, yeah, it's alright, but I went with a friend of mine, Kyle, who was a huge fan of the Avatar movies, and said that that was the worst movie he's ever seen. And then M. Night Shyamalan kind of went away for a little while, and he came back with a movie called The Visit that I actually thought was really well done. And then he came back with Split, which was amazing, and then he came out with Glass, which I liked. I know not a lot of people did. And he's been kind of on the rise again. He's gotten a second chance at trying to be this big shot director who makes blockbusters in the summer. Because if nothing else, M. Night Shyamalan takes risks, and that's what I love about him the most. He's not trying to give us an experience that we've seen before. He's trying to always subvert our expectations. He never makes like a bland movie. Even if it's bad, he throws everything at the wall and tries to see what could stick, and that's why I'll always show up for him, because I know I'm getting an experience unlike anything I've seen before. That follows suit in this movie, because overall, it is a very good movie with some bad writing, and I don't mean writing in terms of like the story, because everything with the story is really compelling. I was on the edge of my seat a lot, and some of the situations they put Josh Hartnett in and trying to see how he's going to figure out how to get himself out of that situation is really well done. But M. Night is not that great with dialogue. He holds too long on scenes of people making funny faces or just screaming because they're so excited that their favorite pop star is on stage. And it's almost like he asked his daughter while he was writing this, like, what's some hip lingo that teenagers are talking about now? Because there's a lot of teenagers in this movie, so he wants to feel relevant. But then he has Josh Hartnett saying it to try and fit in with his daughter, and it's so cringy. It just doesn't work. His dialogue often does not work in his movies. I think that M. Night Shyamalan is a great visionary, and he has great ideas for stories for movies, but he needs to hire a second person to come in and at least help him write the dialogue scenes, because I'd be on the edge of my seat having a really good time, and then he says something stupid like this concert is crispy. That's one of the lingo things that teens say in this, and it's just like such an awkward thing to hear come out of this man's mouth. And I get it, he's trying to fit in with his daughter, but he does it a lot throughout this movie, and like I said, it just really pulls me out of it. There's also some conveniences in this movie. Not all the time. Like, a lot of the time when Josh Hartnett is put in a situation that he has to get out of, there is really smart ways he does it. But then other times, it's just like too convenient of a way for him to get out of it. One of the things that you see in the trailer is he puts these bottles of something in like a deep fryer in a kitchen, but he does it filled with 100 cooks, and none of them see him do this, causing the thing to explode and make a scene. And it's just like, someone would have saw him and reported that. There's a few things like that where they need to get him to point A to point B, and it just feels lazy the way they do it. Like, somebody would have saw that. There's also something towards the end of this movie where somebody live streams something from a locked bathroom, and it just felt so unbelievable and not what somebody in that person's position would be doing in that situation. But I understand why they did it, because they needed to get Josh Hartnett from this point to this point, and that was just what they thought was a good idea, but it just felt lazy. Outside of that, there was a lot I really did like about this movie. The overall story was great. You're following a killer. You want him to succeed because he's the lead in this film, even though you know he's a monster. M. Night does this thing where he makes you want him to get away. It's compelling. Josh Hartnett's performance is also awesome here. Outside of the cringy dialogue that he has with his daughter, he's asked a lot of him in terms of an acting and emoting point of view. He does a lot here with just his emotions and just his facial expressions. Like, I haven't seen this kind of acting from him ever. He has a lot of these like eye twitches and quivers, and like his head kind of like twitches and spasms when he's trying to like conduct a plan, or when he knows that like the cops are like hot on his trail. He has a lot of moments where he has to act totally calm where he's being questioned, and he has a ton of range in this movie that I was just really impressed with, especially because Josh Hartnett was in all these great movies like The Faculty and Guilty Pleasure. I like Pearl Harbor. He was in 30 Days a Night, which I really liked, but then he kind of disappeared for a while and started doing these like straight to DVD movies. I know he turned down the role of Batman in the Christopher Nolan movies, which I don't know if that had anything to do with him disappearing for a little while, but I know he regretted it. But then he started popping up in things. He started popping up in Guy Ritchie movies in these like secondary roles, and then he popped up in Oppenheimer in a fantastic, juicy role. It was incredible. But he didn't do anything like A-list where he was the main star, and now he's given this vehicle to play, on one hand, this caring father for his daughter, but on the other hand, a serial killer who is having a panic attack, essentially, in this really juicy role where he is the lead in this blockbuster film, and I think he really delivers here. I want to see more Josh Hartnett. I really like him. He's a great actor. He should have been way more popular than he is. He does not get the credit he deserves, I feel. And I think to come out of the gate swinging, you need to give him a role like this that was really meaty and gave him a lot to work with. He's also very physically intimidating. He's a very tall man. And there's a lot of scenes where he towers over people in this, and it's really well shot. M. Night Shyamalan is a good visionary director, as I said. He just needs to get help with some of the writing. Overall, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. It was good, not great. But if you really like suspense thrillers, I definitely think it's worthwhile going to the movies because you don't get much of these anymore. And like I said, M. Night's always trying to subvert expectations and give you something you haven't seen before. So as much as I love my superhero movies or my rom-coms or my dramas, it's nice to get a smartly written thriller every now and then that really kind of puts you on a ride of all these different twists and turns. And I think they stuck the landing too. It was an ending that really made sense, and in a movie like this, they could have gone in a bunch of different ways that would have just totally fallen flat, but I think it really was the perfect ending here. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you like M. Night Shyamalan? Are you sick of him after his slew of horrible films? Have I given you a reason to go to the movies this weekend? If I have, let's talk about it in the comments down below, guys, and as always, I'll catch you next time.